Please watch the preceding parts of my lectures on this Beethoven Adieux so that you may follow easier this part 4. For showing this cyclic idea, I will not cover the entire sonata. Beside the time limitations, I want to leave you a room to explore on your own other parts of the sonata. I will share to you what I have discovered in the expositions of the first movement and the third movement. Both movements are in the Sonata Allegro form. First, let me remind you of this lovable theme. And how Beethoven transformed this theme harmonically for the second phrase. Beethoven reharmonized the ambiguous opening chord into a diminished seventh chord. The expositions of the first movement carries further the diminished atmosphere. Beethoven wrote a series of fast downward sequence of diminished chord. It ends on a 4-3 suspensions which create a potential energy to run. Resolve. Then quickly turning upward as if showing the resilient spirit bouncing back. And look what else that Beethoven did. He added one note higher before this 3-note motif. It is in the subdominant. It feels like hanging in the air with the subdominant chord in its first inversion before sliding down with those diminished chords. So now, the 3-note motif becomes a 5-note motif. This 5-note motif functions like a structural marking for the constructions of this sonata. It will mark different sections of the first movement: the exposition, the development, the recapitulations, and the coda. This structural marker is not the main theme of the exposition. Beethoven provided the primary theme and the secondary theme, the tradition that is commonly found in the expositions of Sonata Allegro form. The outline of the lovable theme is the interval of a third. Let me reveal to you first my interpretations of how Beethoven constructed the exposition here. The lovable theme does not start the exposition. It does not appear as the starting point, but the culminating point of the exposition. For the main theme, Beethoven inverted this interval of a third, disguising the lovable theme. Beethoven wrote this main theme in a huge leap. Next to this jump, the lovable theme appears elusively, only the first 2 notes, but then slip downward. A very efficient and naughty use of the original materials. The inverted third intermingles with the fragmented lovable theme, building up intensity, playing with major and minor modes, heading to the culminating point. There are 2 sets of such pairing, as you can see on my board here. I will play again this first set. And here is the second set. Beethoven is extremely so efficient in using his musical materials, and amazingly, he could speak a lot with very limited material, expressing his reluctance of letting go a good friend and at the same time wishing him well. Finally, we reach the culminating point in a well-anticipated arrival, as if saying, "Fare thee well, my friend, so long." But of course, this was not enough for Beethoven. He closed the exposition sections with the echoes of the farewell. Now, let me share how I see the constructions of the third movement is. We have the interval of downward third outlining the level theme. We have seen how Beethoven inverted upward that interval of a third. The first movement speaks about the farewell. It makes sense that we find the tonic triad is split into two parts of the third interval, the downward and the upward. It well represents the two parting friends. The third movement speaks about the reunion. It makes sense as well to see the tonic triad is now reunified. The three notes of the triad are heading into one direction. This tonic triad now appears in its fullest force. Beethoven wrote the indication in the liveliest time measurement. This shows an overflowing joy on the return of his very close friend. This might be my very own interpretations, but with some background analysis. I have learned that Beethoven was the type of composers who was obsessed meticulously with structural constructions. He had crossed out many of his sketches, rewrote it, crossed out again, and rewrote something else, and so on until he finally saw it satisfyingly well designed. It is common for the sonata allegro form to have two thematic arias in its expositions. And here we are with the play of the interval third in both left and right hand. Both seems to be of equal importance. It is hard for me to decide, is this the melody or this note? But this is the point. The first movement, the farewell movement, the downward and upward thirds are presented one after the other. But in this third movement, the return or the reunion, in my own definitions, the two are presented simultaneously. The interpretation is easy for this, as if the two united friends having joyful conversations. My final point, if this is truly a product of conscious effort, Beethoven was far ahead of the serialisms of Schoenberg or any other systems that play around with the arrangements of the notes in composing music. I strongly believe Beethoven as a genius did not take long to arrange all of these awesome features.